Alright, this game is from LSAT PrepTest 43. It's section 4, and it's game number 3, questions 13 to 17. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on. So it says, exactly 6 of an artist's paintings entitled, I don't even want to bother pronouncing them, so Q, R, S, T, V, and Z, whatever they are sold at auction. 3 of the paintings are sold to a museum, 3 are sold to a private collector. Okay, so we have a museum and we have a private collector, each of whom buy 3 of the paintings. Or so I assume. That may or may not be the case. 2 of the paintings are from the artist's first period, 2 are from her second period, and 2 are from her third period. Okay, so now we know that there are 3 periods to this art. 3 periods, 6 pieces of art. Okay, and two from each period. That's what they tell us. And the private collector and the museum each buy 1 painting from each period. So there's the information that we need. Okay, so we know there's 3 periods. We know that the museum and the private collector buy 1 of each, which tells us that this is what our game looks like. We have either that the museum buys it or the private collector buys it, and it's in one of these three categories. So what we have here is an in and out game. We can call the museum in, and we can call the private collector out, just for the sake of picking. You could also do it the other way, but it doesn't particularly matter which way you do it. I'm just going to say that M is in and the private collector is out. Okay, so now we have rules. What are the rules? First rule is that S is sold to the private collector. Okay, so S is sold to this guy. Is from an earlier period than Z, which is sold to the museum. Okay, so Z is sold to this guy, right? And we also know our rule number 1 also says that S is from an earlier period than Z. So this must be the case. Either right next to each other, or S is in 1 and Z is in 3. Okay, fair enough. How about the second rule? Q is not from an earlier period than T. So what does that mean? If Q is not from an earlier period, so in other words, if Q is not above T, then either we have QT, or we have T before Q, right? So Q is from a period after Q. Or in other words, if you want to write this in the negative, it's Q before T slash. But I actually prefer to do it this way, to write it in terms of the positives, just so I can know what my options are. Okay, and then the third rule, V is from the artist's second period. Okay, so the second period, and V is over here. Okay, so we have quite a bit of information here. We know that we already know something about 3 of these elements, and this rule is also pretty restrictive in the sense that this forecloses a lot of possibilities. I mean, like if you think about this for just a second, I'm not going to put it into the master diagram, but if you think about this for just a second, it means that S can't ever be here. Actually, we could put it here. S can't ever be here. Z can't ever be here, because S must always be before Z, right? And furthermore, they can't be together. So in keeping with sort of SZ, this is not possible, and this is also not possible, right? So if you really wanted to do it this way, then this is what you would do. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the questions. This is the setup. So let's go ahead and look. So number 13. Which of the following could be an accurate list of the paintings brought by the museum and the private collector list in order of the paintings' periods from first to third? Okay, so this is just your typical do you understand the rules question. Okay, so let's just go through the rules one by one. So our first rule tells us that S is before Z. So in answer choice A, well, actually let's start with this over here. That Z is sold to the museum. Is there any answer choice where Z is not sold to the museum? Answer choice A is fine, B is fine, C is fine, D is fine, E is fine. Okay. Is there any answer choice where S is not sold to the private collector? So A is fine, B is fine. Answer choice C. Because S is sold to the collector. S to the collector. Or S slash. I'm actually just going to use this notation from now on because S slash was actually not the case. How about answer choice D? Answer choice D is fine. Answer choice E is also fine. Okay, so because answer choice C violates this rule, we would know answer choice C can't be it. Okay, how about this? S before Z. So in answer choice A, S is in 2 and Z is in 3. Okay. In answer choice B, S is in 1, Z is in 2. Okay. Answer choice C we've already eliminated. Answer choice D, S before Z, S is in 1, Z is in 3. Okay. And in answer choice answer choice E, S and Z are both in 1. So this rule, that S before Z, is violated. So answer choice E can't be it. Okay, how about the next rule? That Q and T must either be together or T must come before Q. In other words, that Q cannot come before T. So in answer choice A, Q is in 1 and T is in 3. So immediately that's out, right? Because Q comes before T. How about answer choice B? Q and T are together. That's fine. Same time slot. Answer choice D, Q is before Q is actually after T, which is fine, right? That's this. T is in 1 and Q is in 2. Okay, so now we're left with B and D. So the only rule we have left, this is rule number 3 right here, is that V is from the second time period. So in answer choice B, V is sold to the private collector in the second time period. In answer choice D, V is sold to the private collector in the third time period. So in answer choice D, because V is in second time period, this is the rule it violates, so that can't be it. So B is the answer to this question. Okay, pretty straightforward. How about 14? If S is from the artist's second period, which of the following could be 2 of the 3 paintings bought by the private collector? Okay, so now we have the museum, we have the private collector, we have 1, we have 2, and we have 3. I'm actually going to extend these. Okay, so now we're told that S is from the artist's second period. Well, we already know that S is sold to the private collector, so now S is sold to the private collector, S is sold in 2, which means that that's what we know, right? That immediately tells us something else. That tells us that since this slot is already full of S, we know that V also must be in the second slot, which means that V must go here. Great. And so immediately we've knocked out 2 of our elements. So let's actually write these down. Q, R, S, T, V, and Z. We know where V and S go for sure. Okay. Is there anything else we know? Well, we know that S comes before Z, so if S is in 2, Z has to be in 3, right? And if Z is in 3, we already know Z is sold to the museum, according to our rule number 1, so Z must be here, which lets us cross off another element to our list. Okay, so what do we know about this stuff, right? R, it turns out, if you look at all of our rules, R doesn't actually have any rules attached to it, and so R can go wherever it wants. But Q and T must be in a specific kind of relationship. Either they must be together, or T must be before Q. Right. So let's actually reproduce this. V, S, and Z, and let's actually draw out the possibilities. Right. So over here, we know that there's only one guy down here. So either T has to be up here, and Z has to be and Q has to be down here, or T and Q have to be together. Right. So over here, we have T and Q together, and then R is here. Right. We don't know which one goes where. We just know that this relationship is true. Whereas down here, if we imagine that Q is down here, then T or R must go up here, right? So this is T or R. This is T or R. And do either of these violate any of our rules? Well, S comes before Z. No. Q and T are together here. T comes before Q here, so that's fine. And V is in 2. Great. So now what's the question asking us? The question is asking us which could be 2 of the 3 paintings bought by the private collector. So let's actually write out the answer choices A, B, C, D, and E. So answer choice A, can the private collector buy Q and Z? No, because Z is always going to be to the museum. Answer choice B, R and T, can you ever buy R and T together? Yeah, sure, why not? Right here, right? If R is in 3 and T is over here. How about answer choice C, R and V? Well, V is always going to be sold to the museum, so forget it. Answer choice D, R and Z? Z is always going to be sold to the museum, so forget it. And then answer choice E, T and Z. Again, Z is sold to the museum, so forget it. So it turns out that answer choice B is the correct answer to question 14. Alright, let's go to question 15. So question 15 asks us, which of the following is a complete and accurate list of the paintings, any one of which could be the painting from the artist's first period that is sold to the private collector? Okay, so we have our museum, we have a private collector, first period, second period, third period, and we're asking what can go here in this box. Okay, and so first things first, no Z over here, V has to go here, S has to go here, no Z, or Z has to go here, S has to go here. Okay, so we know immediately, if we draw our list of elements, Q, R, S, T, V, and Z, we know immediately that Z can't go there. Why? Because not only does Z have to be sold to the museum, but Z can't go in the first slot, right? So immediately answer choice, or immediately any answer choice with Z is going to be out. So actually, let's just reproduce these answer choices. Answer choice A is QR, this is RS, QST, QRST, and RSTZ. Okay, so the moment that we see the Z, we can get rid of answer choice E. Actually, let's cross off in red to make sure that we understand. Okay, so immediately when we see Z, we know that Z can't go in this square, so that's great. That's fine. That's just the answer, right? Okay, so we've already done a lot of legwork on this. Initially, this seems like a very difficult thing to do without actually just trying. But let's actually just take a look at what we know from question 13 and question 14, right? Question 13 is the most valuable because that's the one where all you have to do is straight up apply the rules, which means that assuming you did it correctly, which there's no reason you shouldn't be able to do it, that means we know something for sure. So answer choice 13's answer was B, as we discussed, and that distribution was as follows. Museum, private collector. The museum takes QVZ, and the private collector, oh no, I'm sorry. That's answer choice A. Answer choice B says RZQ, and then SVT. So this is the distribution from answer choice 13. This is the correct answer, right? And so if we want this slot, we know that S is possible. So now we can eliminate anything that doesn't have an S, which means answer choice A, right? Which leaves us the question, okay, well we have RS, we have QST, and QRST, so we still have a bunch of elements to check. But then, let's go ahead and take a look at our work from 14. Remember this? When we said that, you know, all they said is that S is 2, so that S is here, which means that V is here and Z is here. What were our possibilities? Do you remember? From just a second ago. That either T and Q are up here, and R is down here, or Q is down here, and T and R are up here. Right? This could just have been a straight copy and paste over from question 14. So actually, let's put these in parentheses to make it clear that these aren't the questions we're attempting. Okay. So over here, we know that T and Q are fine, right? So anything that doesn't involve T and Q is correct. Over here, we know that T and R is fine. So anything that doesn't involve T and R is correct. Is wrong, I mean. And so since this one doesn't involve the R, it doesn't include all the possibilities. Remember, we're looking for the possibility that is a complete and accurate list of the paintings, which means that we need all of them, right? So we've proven to ourselves that we have S, we have T, we have Q, and we have R, which is exactly answer choice D. And so there's your answer to this question. Alright, let's keep going to number 16. So number 16 asks us if S is from the artist's second period. Okay, so once again we have the same exact setup as we did for number 14, right? Where S is from the second period, and so S must be in the PC slot, which means V is here and Z is here. And so immediately most of our work is already done for us in this scenario, right? Again, from the previous question, we copied it over. We could copy it over here again, or you know, if this was a real piece of paper, you would actually just look back at the work you did. But for now, let's just keep going. Which of the following paintings could be from the period immediately preceding Q's period and be sold to the same buyer as Q? Okay, so we want something that is before Q, like immediately preceding Q in the same column. Well, how is that possible in this square? No. If we put Q here, then there's nothing above it. There's no way that Q can be there, right? So Q can't be there. What if we put Q here? Again, we have the same problem. There's no slot immediately above it, which means that Q must be here, which means the thing that immediately above it with the same buyer is S. So, is that an answer choice? It better be an answer choice because that's the correct answer. And it turns out to be answer choice B. So answer choice B is the correct answer to question 16. You know, again, you know, if you figured out question 14, most of this work is already done for you. And then at that point, all you have to do is recognize what it means to have a slot above Q, meaning that Q cannot be in either of the top slots. And we polish this game off with question number 17. So 17 says Z is sold to the same buyer as T, and is from the period immediately preceding T's period. Okay, so Z and T are sold to the same buyer, and are in this exact order. Okay, which means that what? Which means that T is also sold to the museum. So if we create our chart again, 1, 2, and 3. Let's think about this, right? Now we have this block, Z and T, sold to the same buyer, which is the museum. And now let's just look at what we know. We know that Z can't ever be in 1. So where does this block have to go? There's only one place for it to go. It's here. Z in 2 and T in 3 in the museum slot, which means, well, the V, right, has to be there. because V must be in the second slot. If V must be in the second slot, what else do we know? We know that S must be sold to the private collector, and that S is above Z, right? Which means that you can't put S there, can't put S there, so S must go here. So what are we left with? We're left with R, and we're left with Q. And so what do we know about Q? We know that Q and T must either be together or T must be above Q. Well, T can't ever possibly be above Q, so we know that Q must be here. Which means, by deductive reasoning, that R must be in the M1 slot. So now we have complete information. We can just answer anything that they ask of us. So let's reproduce the answer choices, and let's see what they're asking us. And they ask us, which of the following must be true? So answer choice A, Q is sold to the museum? No. Answer choice B, Q is from the artist's third period? Yes, that must be true. How about C, R is sold to a private collector? No. Answer choice D, R is from the artist's third period? No. And answer choice E, R is sold to the same buyer as V? No. So answer choice B is your answer to question 17.